Good night, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's very, very, very late in the night. For those of you who don't know, if you're checking out for a piece of scripture that I'm about to give, I'm not going to give any piece of scripture, but you can check out the previous song. There's a song that was done before this video or this stream has come out. I did a song. It's called uh, Let It. So you can check that out. And that's where I basically spoke on spiritual things and contributed with what would have been scripture tonight. Tonight, this quick stream is about Lois Lane's fierceness, as you can see, as a reporter. And I found this is very interesting that at the beginning of both movies, whether it's Batman v Superman or Man of Steel, we actually saw Lois being very tough as a reporter. She really has that fierceness. And she's almost like a boss, and she really knows how to play the game. So I wanted to show you some parallels between Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, and just how interesting Lois Lane conducts herself. And of course, Zack Snyder loves to use symmetry, so you'll see that reflective in his movies quite a lot. So when you go to Man of Steel, you can see that Lois Lane here, she's greeting Colonel Hardy, who's actually introducing them. And Colonel Hardy is refusing Lois Lane's hand in a handshake. And Lois Lane here, Colonel Hardy says, "Miss Lane, Colonel Hardy from U.S. North come." And he does not give his hand to shake her hand, and that shows hostility. And then Dr. Emil Hamilton from DARPA. "You're early. We were expecting you tomorrow," says Colonel Hardy. Right? And Lois Lane says, "Which is why I showed up today." Let's get one thing straight, guys, okay? The only reason I'm here is because we're on Canadian soil and an appeal court overruled your injunction to keep me away. So if we're finished measuring dicks, can you have your people show me what you've found? And I thought that was just a lot of audacity right there. And clearly, she knows she's the one who has the ace in her deck of cards. So she already was able to legally be there. And so the hostility by Colonel Hardy was, I guess, because of that. But he couldn't really do anything, and he can't really pull rank on her because she's already got the legal framework to investigate. And it just shows, again, how tough Lois Lane really is as a person. And this is in a real world setting. A Twitter user pointed out to me that this is what he called deconstruction of superheroes. That is to say, Lois Lane is a comic book character, but she's set in the real world, which to my knowledge was what Smallville was and what certain comics are, but nonetheless, they call it a deconstruction. I don't think Lois operated other than what she was. To me, Lois is always Lois, but again, that's different people's take on it. The guy from Twitter, he was saying that actually Zack Snyder and Deborah Snyder alluded to the deconstruction of superheroes. Because again, these superheroes are placed in a real world setting, or in a setting where certain social points can be made, and where the characters are not in the setting that they would normally be, say, for instance, in a fantasy setting. Whatever you think, I think that I love this iteration of Lois Lane, nonetheless. Anyway, getting back to what we were talking about. So, in Batman v Superman, we have a sort of repeat of the scenario with the handshake. In this case, though, Lois Lane doesn't bother to shake Jimmy Olsen's hand, as you can see here. Jimmy Olsen offers his hand. Lois Lane doesn't even bother to shake his hand. But the dialogue is a little bit different. So, Jimmy Olsen introduces himself, Miss Lane. Jimmy Olsen, a photographer, obviously, just like how Colonel Hardy was introducing people. But this time, Jimmy Olsen is the friendly one, and Lois Lane is just watching him. She says, "Where's Heron?" Or Heron. And Jimmy Olsen says, "Trouble at the border." "So how do you land it? This is pioneer stuff. Amaja has never given an interview." And Lois Lane responds to that saying, "You know what Heron says when we're on assignment together? Not a goddamn thing. I like Heron. and she basically puts him in check, again showing that she's the one in control. So she's always been the one in control as a reporter, like, and I found that very interesting. And she's pretty fierce as a reporter. And to me, it's anytime she opens her mouth when she's a reporter dealing with different people, she lets them know, hey, no, you don't call the shots here, I call the shots, you know what I mean? And she has some very clever ways of doing so. So she's really, really fierce and really tough as a reporter. And I thought that was very interesting. As much as she has this very quiet kind of voice, which is not what you tend to see Lois Lane as, she's fierce as a reporter, and she gets her story. And I found that very, very interesting. So that's what I wanted to point out to you guys at this late hour in the night. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. And I hope you operate true to doing good and just being good all around. If you want to, you can check out my music video. Those of you who like my music videos, you can check out my music video, which is in the video before this stream. And I wish you guys a blessed week. You know what I mean? I only wish good things for you guys. So that's basically it for my video. I hope you guys enjoy this. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat section. If nobody's saying anything, I'm out of here, man. So let me just come out of this. Let's see what's going on in the chat section. Oh, Goat Films. Yo, bro. I didn't know you were here, man. How you doing, man? Hope everything's good with you. Hope everything's good with you. It's a pretty late hour in the night to be up. You know, if you are living in, the West Hemisphere, it's nighttime. It depends on where you are, actually. Depending on where you are, probably it's not that late. But I always thought that Lois Lane was a pretty fierce, fierce reporter. When it comes to reporting, you could see it, even how she deals with Perry White, negotiating with him, and even how she deals with people like Lex Luthor and so on, how she stands up to them and lets them know what's up. She literally was in the heart of battle as well with Batman and Superman, and then with the Doomsday scene. And she's just in the middle of the action. You got to be fearless to do that. GoFilm says it's 12 a.m. where I am. Wow. Well, man, it's 1:31 a.m. where I am. So I should really go in my bed and sleep right about now. But yeah, man, thanks for the support also on the video before. I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. So yeah, Lois Lane, man, she is fierce, and we've seen many incidents of that, even in the Justice League movie. Even though I believe it was the Joss Whedon scene where she was making jokes with, or there were jokes made between Martha and herself. When it came to the other reporter who wanted leads from what she, her leads and stuff. Even then, even though it's Whedon redoing it somewhat or whatever, she again showed that she was fierce in a very sophisticated, very clever way. I thought that was interesting about Lois Lane. She is no pushover, when it comes to reporting and stuff like that. She is, she's fierce. She's a beast. Anyway, man, Go Films, shout out to you, my brother. I'm surprised you are still up. Have a good night, man. And in terms of releasing Snyder Cut information, nothing new. We have not gotten anything's feedback from anybody concerning the letters, the snail mail that went to Warner Brothers. Oh, no. She's not thirsty. She's thirsty for a story in a way, but she's always in control. Like, if you watch her as a reporter, she's really on top of a story. Even when she was pursuing the bullet and she was talking to the lady at the Pentagon, the researcher at the Pentagon, you could see that she, again, was paying attention to every single detail that was going on. And I find, like, as a reporter, man, she's very fascinating to follow. What was interesting, though? I was having a conversation with a dude, and he was saying to me that, Lois Lane's arc for Batman v Superman was not necessary. If you remove her arc, yeah, I know. If you remove her arc for Batman v Superman, you wouldn't miss it in the movie. And I totally disagree with him. I told him, look, man, first of all, the Lois Lane's arc helped to connect Lex Luthor to the bombing at the Capitol building. Without that connection, without her arc, the bullet arc, you would never have known he was connected to the Capitol bombing building. It was her information with the bullet, the same material that was used to build the wheelchair that exploded, that showed that Lex Luthor was linked to the Capitol bombings. And you literally hear that. Also, the brilliance of Lex Luthor would have been cut short, because if you took Lewis's arc out of there, um, there are two things you have to see. One is that you would not have known that he was trying to set up Superman in the desert, straightforward. It wouldn't have been, as wonderful, because she was following the bullet. Two, you also would not have known, at least it wouldn't have been spoken of in the movie, that he had set up the Capitol bombing building, showing that he's a mastermind for those two things. And then, of course, the third is the most obvious one. He probably wouldn't have kidnapped Lois, because Superman would have been framed, whatever, but Lois would not have even been in the picture, you see. Because Lex Luthor is a guy who, again, he does things on the fly. He comes up with new ideas, new plans, new plots. And if he's being very successful in framing Superman for the Capitol bombing building, and Lois is not even trying to track down the bullet, so that at no time is Lex Luthor even, nobody's following up on that, so we don't even know about that story. It leads to us being bewildered why what happened with Superman in the desert. And then on top of that, we probably wouldn't have had the desert scene, because Lewis wouldn't have been following any bullets. So there would have been no desert scene. It would have just been the downtown metropolis incident that happened with Batman, and it would have skipped to the kryptonite issue, which would have led to Lex Luthor looking like a crazy Joker-like guy who had no plans and just was kind of doing things ad hocly. But when we have the bullet story, and all the things that accompany that, leading to the Capitol bombing, and all the pieces of information fitting together, because Lois Lane's information to Senator Finch's information, piecing that stuff together. The problem with Senator Finch's information is we wouldn't have had a false witness talking about Superman in the desert, because we wouldn't have had Lois Lane doing the bullet story to try and redeem Superman. So there wouldn't have been none of that story. So all of that story would have been taken out of the movie, which means we wouldn't have had a congressional hearing on Superman in the desert, which means we wouldn't have had the false witness who would have tried to reveal herself. And so that would have made Lex Luthor less and less important to the story. In fact, we would have been wondering, why is Lex Luthor even in the story? He's like this crazy clown that's there. What's he doing in the story? And it would have been much more useless. A lot of people said that Lex Luthor would have, if Lois Lane, they cut the arc short and didn't have that, but he still kidnapped Lois Lane. It still would have been as effective. And I was like, no. First of all, Lois Lane's the one that told Lex Luthor what he had done, because Lois Lane had found out what he had done before. Lex Luthor never confessed anything to Lois Lane, and that's something that people don't realize. Like in BVS, Lois Lane's the one that told Lex Luthor, I know what you did, right? And so, Lex Luthor never admitted to anything. He just responded to her and said it would blow away like wind in the desert. And he didn't have to speak about the story, because Lois Lane had already dug it up. And again, he was tracking Lois Lane. As soon as Lois Lane was ready and had enough information to basically target him and actually prove that he had done something, he snatched her up and kidnapped her, right? So it's just very interesting. Even though Superman saved her and let her go, if Superman was dead, it didn't really matter that much, because he accomplished his mission. His mission was to get Superman, kill him. That's what Lex Luthor's whole plan was. He didn't mind going to prison for it. So, yeah, again, the film actually rings true in real life. People hate what they don't understand. Exactly, GOAT films. So what eventually anyway happened is we had a situation where I listened to this guy talk again, and every time he talked, he talked about general things. The guy's issue was with the characterization of the characters, that Zack Snyder deconstructed the heroes. This was his major issue with Man of Steel and with Batman v Superman. And to me, it's funny because um, that's why I love those movies. And what's weird to me is, didn't Christopher Nolan deconstruct Batman and even more than Zack Snyder did with, BVS and Man of Steel? So what was the problem? You didn't have a problem with with Christopher Nolan deconstructing Batman. So what's your problem? And this is something I didn't quite understand. Um, but it is what it is. Um, so I just wanted to showcase Lewis's fierceness, and with the Snyder Cut movement, we are going to proceed. I probably will put up a Twitter. If nobody's going to do it, I'm going to put up a Twitter uh, page where all the Snyder Cut people can come and actually follow. I'm going to actually do that if nobody else does it. You know, GoFilm says people give Nolan a pass just because he has this reputation for making good movies. Apparently, that's why they give him a pass. Zack Snyder has had some hidden hits and misses, so all of a sudden, and people only think of Zack Snyder as an action film maker, and he's not that. And clearly, he's going to do The Fountainhead and prove that point. But Zack Snyder is more than that, obviously. He's not Michael Bay. And this is the thing, I hear a lot of people compare him to Michael Bay, and I'm like, no, Michael Bay does action. That's what he's, an action film director. Zack Snyder's not an action film director. He actually has much more substance in his movies, and he does a lot of dramas. Anyway, so I found it interesting. We still have to keep on pushing for the Snyder Cut, keeping the campaign. Warner Bros. Is trying to hold out to see if we will fade. We're not going to fade. Some people are talking about, let's move to the boycott movement. I'm like, no, don't boycott anything. If you don't feel like going to see those movies, don't go see them. If you want to see them, go see them. So and that's how I feel about that issue. I don't think we should unitedly boycott a movie because we're not getting the Snyder Cut. I don't believe in that. I believe that every man. I'm not enthused to see any of the movies right now. I'm interested in the Snyder Cut, so that's where it is. So if they keep this up, I'm probably not going to go into the cinema and see Aquaman like that. Maybe I'll see it once because I still want to give it a chance. And if it's anything like an MCU movie, because Warner Bros. Seems to be moving the MCU route, if it's anything like an MCU movie, I probably won't bother to watch it again. If it's a good movie, solid, I'm going to continue watching it. But I will say that I will always put in hashtag release the Snyder Cut. I'll probably go into the cinema and say that even, because we have to be more outspoken. We have to be vocal about this thing. And we have to keep on pushing at Warner Brothers for the Snyder Cut of these movies. But at present, I don't think I'm going into the cinema right now. Maybe if the next trailer shows something very promising, I'll be looking forward to seeing Aquaman in the cinemas. But if it's not something promising, I'm not going there. Talking about other movies in the cinemas, I haven't seen Mission Impossible 6. I wanted to go with my brother over this weekend. Depends. Maybe if I make enough money tomorrow, maybe I'll look at that. Maybe not. There's some serious things happening in the family too, so I have to pay attention to that first. And I've been really putting a lot of my efforts to those things. Today was more of a vacation, but I still tied up some loose ends on certain things that needed to be done. And I may have some more responsibilities, so I may not be able to put out the videos that I really want to put out. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, right now I'm not interested in any future DCEU films, and that's sad because I like what Patty Jenkins is doing with Wonder Woman. I'm glad that Hans Zimmer is on board. That kind of stuff. That sounds very promising. But at present, the way Warner Bros. Is hurting their franchise by not putting out the Snyder Cut, which I don't know why they're not doing that, and trying to, have media outlets and stuff talk about it doesn't exist and it's just this mythical Snyder Cut, and they keep on throwing jabs at people. They're just going to irate some of the fans. I wouldn't be surprised some of the fans are not just going to have any interest in the next coming movies. Looks like Shazam and Aquaman could take a hit for that, because I've looked at also just the amount of people going to their Twitter webpage. Not a lot of people liking their Twitter webpage for Aquaman or Shazam, and that says something. By this time, people should have had interest in both movies. So if their movies end up flopping, if Aquaman and Shazam ends up flopping, I don't know if they'll close off the universe or what, but They're really stupid not to put out the Snyder Cut. Like, the Snyder Cut is something that would get everybody on board. You want all your DC fans on board. That's what Tommy Eric said and Walter Hamada said, but we have not seen that. There's no good faith, nothing. I haven't seen anything concerning the Snyder Cut. I don't know what's going on. I thought by now they would have put out something, but they haven't. So we'll see. They should give some word on that. If they're going to ignore that, it's going to hurt them. I could tell you that. I could tell you that it's going to hurt them. But they don't believe me, so we don't seem to matter that much. So we'll see what happens in the end. Anyway, I hope you have a good night. Go Films. Shout out to everybody else. God bless you and have a great one.